imposter syndrome turns up, where things are going well and we worry there's going to be a knock on the door and we've been discovered as being hollow or fraudulent or not good enough or not okay. And how that means it's difficult for us to be authentic and to speak up and to take the risk of putting ourselves out into the world. So we remain blocked or fearful. And tonight is about helping you see how that is always happening for really, really beautiful reasons. Even the most destructive, even the most damaging, the most painful choices that you may have made in your life, they were coming from a part of you that was protecting you from pain, half pain. And it needs to be understood. It needs to be appreciated. It needs to feel trusted. And if it can feel that part of you that has previously been blocking you, if it feels that you understand why it's there, then you're in a position to be able to negotiate with this part and start making different choices. And the changes that I've seen that people can make are vast. And indeed, the changes in my own life, the patterns of self-sabotage and blocking my own potential and getting my own way and not having the confidence to really believe that if I was truly myself, that things would work. And so there will be a chance for some questions at the end. And there is also a chance for you to kind of contact me or contact anyone in FreeMind afterwards so that you are able to get questions that you may have answered. And so there is support, and we're going to create a Facebook group where you can use these tools and be practicing these tools, and you can support each other on an ongoing basis after this. So there can be a community here. So what I have learned over this last year, my whole business was forced online. And I was halfway through a therapist training where I was training therapists in these techniques. And the first half of the training had been in person, and the second half was going to have to be online. And I just couldn't believe it was going to be okay. I just thought it was going to be nowhere near as good. And to my surprise, for so many reasons, it was better. For so many reasons, people were able to go deeper into their psychology. They were able to do it from the comfort of their own home. They didn't have to schlep across town and deal with how that can close us down. It's been amazing to me the last year of witnessing what it is, what's possible in these online groups. Please mute your microphones. Please mute your microphones. So the reason I share that now is because, as I said, I don't want this to be a theoretical evening. And what I've seen is if we can come together, the sheer numbers that we have in this space now, we have about 2,000 people. Usually that means about 800 people will probably actually turn up. And that's 800 people coming together with a shared intention. The magic and momentum that's possible with that energy, what we're actually able to do with that shared energy is absolutely extraordinary. What I've seen is the more people you have in a space working on the same kind of things, it creates a momentum where if you were doing this by yourself, it might actually take you longer. So for many of you this evening, you might just get a theory and you might get a technique that will enable you to do this work on yourself. But for a number of you tonight, you might actually have a profound connection with your protector, with your saboteur, or indeed with the core part of you that will enable you to change your relationship with yourself. For many of you who are here, you have a habit or a history of pushing away compliments and not really allowing yourself to receive, not asking for what you want. And over time, the greatest cost of it, just having to mute people as I'm thinking, the greatest cost of that is over time we fall out with ourselves. We no longer trust ourselves in relationship. And relationships end up being something where we lose ourselves. And it creates such a drain, or can potentially create such a drain, that over time we just out from that whole body. relationships just appear to us to be something which we just really can't afford to engage in. So it's safer and easier not to be in a relationship, not to be intimate. And that's the ultimate self-sabotage. And that's before we even look at, not truly bringing your magic to life, your unique story, your unique gifts, your magic. Having the courage to know that there is intrinsic value in the journey you have been on and what that could do for others if you share it. And the magic that I've seen when we do that in so many ways, whether you're working professionally or just in your community or just in your family. So we're going to begin with covering the kind of theory of where self-sabotage comes from. And that should hopefully prepare the ground for us to then go on this shared journey together to work on it directly this evening. And then I'll explain the tools that you'll be given. And then you have a chance to then, on an ongoing basis, use these tools. And so what I would want for this evening, and what I think makes this more powerful, is if we can trust, we've got people from all over the world here this evening. And I want you just to take just a moment just to get connected to yourself and to everybody here, that everybody is here because they want to learn how to be free to be truly themselves and to let more love and abundance and life and happiness and to be a true expression of who they are. And that's our journey. That's every human's journey. But right now, the people that are here have responded because in some ways they don't feel they're fully self-expressed or allowing themselves freely. Or they're in the business of helping other people do that, or both. I know that we can create a momentum of care if we can let this group care about all the people here, then we do have a chance of creating something more special here this evening. So just taking a moment to know that there are nearly 600 other souls in this space. Probably going to be another few hundred joining. And so just taking a moment just to feel connected. And to be patient with the inevitable noises as people's microphones seem to be coming on and off. It's just a part of the joys of Zoom. We can love unconditionally, even though there may be crackles and bangs and wallops and kids and things barking in the background. Let's not need this to be a perfectly silent space, okay? We'll do our best, but just, be gentle. So, for the last 21 years, I have been absolutely obsessed with the human condition and happiness and where it comes from and what blocks it. My own personal story is 21 years ago, nearly, I wasn't any kind of spiritual seeker. I was looking for happiness in all the wrong places, in all the wrong ways, and then had a moment of clarity that completely changed my life. And from that moment, I've been absolutely obsessed with two things: happiness, what gets in the way of it, where our most natural organic happiness, where it comes from, what gets in the way of it. And most importantly, this kind of art and science of epiphany. What things can be brought together to make people think, feel, believe, and behave differently. And I've dedicated the rest of my life to understanding the things that I'm going to share with you today. And I truly believe that the two tools I'm sharing with you tonight are the most powerful tools for transformation. And that's most exciting to me because you can do it on yourself. And for me, that's why I call myself a mental health revolutionary, because I'm passionate about empowering people to realize the answers to your troubles are inside you. But we hear that a lot, but if you don't understand how to speak to the specific part that's purposefully blocking your potential, then all the willpower in the world won't change it. All the hoping, all the affirming, all the affirmations, all the meditating will not change it. There's a part in people's psychology that is dead against that person doing well and doing it for incredible reasons. But until they're understood, all of our good efforts, well, that's what it will remain. It will remain like we're constantly pushing a bull uphill to be our best self. It won't be a state of flow. It'll be a state of fighting against our worst nature. And so over this period of time, my journey with that, all of that learning and all of the different kind of philosophical schools and the spiritual schools and the psychology schools led to me getting published in 2013. I wrote the book, The Free Mind Experience, which goes into much more detail about the psychology of freedom and what it is and where happiness comes from and where unconditional love comes from. And that ended up a couple of years ago, all of that kind of goodness being put into the Free Mind app, which you're going to get given free access to in this webinar. So you're going to be emailed out free links to be able to access these healing recordings, which are in the Free Mind app. And so for me, my greatest passion is about kind of helping people realize that with some powerful meditation tools, with some interesting psychology and some beautiful music, it's amazing what you can discover inside yourself. And I have helped so many people go from beyond blocking themselves to then being much more free, to being truly themselves. And this is ultimately about every individual's healing journey is really our collective healing journey. And we find ourselves en masse now in an incredibly powerful time for healing, an incredibly powerful time to stop and think about how we've been doing what we're doing. Arguably, you could say that the human race has been self-sabotaging. The whole human race has been, in its own way, not living organically, not living happily. And as we talked about, the cost of sabotage to you, but also to the world at large, is vast. It really is vast. And the unnecessary pain that we have parts inside us purposefully creating. You know, it's so common when people are sabotaging that there will have been people around you in your life who would have absolutely adored you, just would have woken up every day blessing their lucky stars to have been lucky enough to wake up with you. And your sabotage department would have convinced you that they were boring or that they weren't right for you. And you would have been attracting or attracted to people that won't have seen your value, won't have treated you right, won't have texted you back. This is so commonplace. And that's before we talk about what it costs us in so many other areas, whether it's work or finance. But really, our journey as humans, our hero's journey as humans, is to get to experience ourselves in our most expanded state and to feel the sheer bliss of existence. And if we have parts of us that don't want us to feel good, that really gets in the way of us feeling that natural happiness that is available to us in any moment. And so let's talk about why this happens and where this comes from. Always, invariably, these patterns start from our childhood. And so the first rule, the primary rule of being a child, is to believe that the people looking after us are safe, that they're good, that they're right. And this is not about loyalty. This is about survivalism. If children knew that their parents weren't stable, or if they knew that their parents were not safe, then they would be too anxious. So kids delude themselves. We deny it. We hide from that painful truth. And there was an amazing meme I saw the other day, which said, don't shout at your kids. They won't hate you, they'll hate themselves. And in the simplest term, that explains where self-sabotage begins. In truth, when our needs are not met when we're little, and by the way, when I start saying this, people often, there's going to be a variety of people here. Some will be like, yep, it was pretty bad. Many of you will be like, well, they did it, it was okay. I had a fairly happy childhood. They did their best with what they knew. They put, a roof over my head, clothes on my back. They might not have really been very expressive emotionally or told me that they loved me very much. But, I knew I was loved, and I wasn't a starving kid in Ethiopia, or could have been worse. There's other people who have much worse than me. And these are the tools that we use. These are the words that we say to deny the fact that actually at times it was still really, really painful. And at those times when it's painful, We don't want to admit that we're being let down. We don't want to admit that there is anything wrong with those people because we need to believe they're good. We need to believe they're safe. And so we invariably do two things. The first defensive mechanism is we believe it's our fault. We believe if they are right and yet their treatment of us is not that loving, not that kind, not that present, then that must be appropriate. And the only way we can make sense of that psychological algebra is if we are the faulty part of the equation. If they are right to treat us in this way, if we can keep them right, then we must be wrong. And so it serves us to internalize the idea that we are somehow faulty, not good enough, not clever enough, not cute enough, not funny enough, not what they want. Should have been a boy, should have been a girl. And for those of you that are firstborns, if you were in a family where there was a second sibling that came along in under 3 years, then generalizing, using psychological generalizations, so many firstborns, when there's a gap of less than 3 years between the next child, hugely feel that that child was brought, the second child came because there was something faulty with the first. Now, that doesn't always translate to just total suffering and dysfunction, because actually some of the most high achieving people in the world are firstborns. And I know the firstborns listening to this be like, yeah, totally. Firstborns are amazing. But the truth is, and again, these are generalizations, but most firstborns are actually driven by a deep-seated feeling that they're not okay. Most profound hypochondriacs that I've treated were firstborns, where actually that sensation of something not being right actually turns into a fear that something physically isn't right. So they're paranoid about their health. And so lots of high achievers aren't driven by a sense of excellence. They're driven by a sense of fear of inadequacy, which is why sometimes success never feels any good, because it's actually a compensation for not feeling good. So the greater the accolade, the greater the sense of hollowness. And the greater the sense of also, in those situations, also being an imposter, because we're meant to be happy because we've got everything we thought that would make us happy, and yet it doesn't touch the sides. Because that's not where happiness comes from. So the first belief we inherit is I am faulty, I'm not good enough, I'm not okay. And it's deeply painful. But many people at a young age are okay thinking that, because the world's telling us we're no good anyway, and that we're small and we can't run and we can't do this. And the sixth formers are good and first formers are, first graders are rubbish. And the whole system is designed to make you think you're not good now, but you can be great later. And advertising adds to that idea that we need to add something to us to be okay. So we're used to being told we're not adequate. And so many people take comfort that they're not adequate now on the basis that they will be amazing later. And if any of you have felt that feeling of this time next year, it's all going to be fine. Once this one thing sorted, it's all going to be fine. That ever expanding, never arriving sensation of certainty or peace. Because we're chasing our tail and avoiding that sensation. So the first toxic defense mechanism is the belief that we're not okay. But the second, which usually happens a little bit later, usually between 6 and kind of 8, we are old enough for our neocortex to come fully online. We're able to do comparative thinking. And we're also old enough at that age to start doing sleepovers at our friends or going to our cousins. And at that point, we realize that parents aren't just one thing. And we can't help start comparing our parents to other parents. That's interesting. Sometimes that's good news, sometimes that's bad news. But what we tend to do, the second defense that's most common, is people tell themselves that it's just normal. That's just normal. That's just what adults do. So I'm low value, and it's normal that that's the way people treat me. And it's normal that their life is that way. And that's what adults do. So a child who was brought up by alcoholic parents will vow at 8 never to drink, and they hate alcohol. But they've told themselves that's just normal, that's just okay, that's just what adults do. And that person becomes an adult, they have children, and they feel an overwhelming compulsion to repeat that pattern. And so we find ourselves commonly repeating the painful patterns that have been passed on to us, because there's a part inside that is desperately trying to normalize that which was disappointing or unsatisfactory. And those two beliefs, I'm not okay and the world won't meet my needs, they are the foundation of where self-sabotage and imposter syndrome comes from. So one of the most powerful ways of assessing whether you have any self-sabotage at play is literally to ask yourself, how do you receive compliments? How you receive compliments is one of the simplest indicators. Just think about it for a moment. If someone was starving, if someone's like dragged themselves across a desert and they're thirsty or starving, and they come out of the desert and you hand them water and you hand them food, they would gobble that down with great fervor and joy and gratitude. People think that they are low self-esteem because they weren't given the care and attention that they wanted and that they deserved. But it's not that. It's, why would you, someone pays you a compliment, would you push it away? How would that serve you? Why would that be of something a part of you was choosing? So we either push it away, as in verbally, we say, oh, we deny it, or we get better at accepting of it internally. We think that they're mad, or we think that they're after something, or we just think that they're deluded, or that they're flattering us, but they don't really mean it. And the reason why a person will push that away is because in the simplest terms, someone paying you a compliment is actually pointing out your value. And if you touch your value, if you connect to your value, then it's like an internal part of you goes, well, hold on a minute. If I'm lovable and I'm of value, well then what the hell was that about? What was that about? I don't want that compliment. Keep your compliment. I don't want to feel good about myself. No, I don't want that promotion. I'm not going to put myself forward. I'm not going to shine. I'm not going to speak up. I'm not going to approach that person. I don't want it to work, because if it works, then what the hell? And that is the pain we're avoiding, the realization that we were always of ultimate value, that we were ultimately deserving of love. And the biggest challenge is, even well-meaning parents, their love has been conditional. It has been based on us having been good. The praise we receive when we're little, when we take a first step, when we get A's, or when all of it has been based on achievement. And yes, as parents, we have to encourage our children to take the next step and to do brave things, and encourage them and congratulate them when they achieve and perform. But we must also sit with them and tell them that none of that makes any difference to how much we care about them or how much we love them. And we have to come up with new and inventive ways of making our kids get that we love them unconditionally. I'm constantly thinking about how I can explain it to my kids so that they really believe it. I think my parents just worked on hugging me and giving me affection. And they thought that would be enough. And that's pretty good. There are many of you here that didn't get affection, that are saying, well, I knew they loved me, but they never said the words. And so I don't claim to be a parenting expert, but I do claim to be a parent mistake expert, because all I've done for 21 years is clean up parent mistakes. And I'm not sitting in some kind of ivory tower of parental awesomeness. On a bad day, I can see myself making terrible choices and my own anger or my own frustration affecting my kids. I think I'm pretty good at cleaning it up when I make those mistakes, but it's hard. It's hard to be a good parent. It's definitely hard to be a good parent consistently. But I think there's about 20 things that are really important as parents, really, really important things that we should all know if we're going to be parents. But the first two, the most important, if you have those and none of the others, then you're probably going to be okay. But if you have all of the other 18 but not the first two, your kids are going to have difficulty. So I'm not here to try and challenge you or trigger any of you, but if your parents did not tell you actively and regularly that you were loved, and if they did not hug and kiss you, it has a massive impact. It is hard being human. We need to be absolutely marinated in love to have half a fighting chance to believe in ourselves in this crazy world. And some of you may have been lucky enough to get it from one parent, maybe not both. Or maybe you got it from grandparents, but some of you won't have Won't have had it for anyone. And it can feel like that would damage our core value. But the truth is our core value is titanium. It can't go anywhere. The reason why we get depressed is because it's the difference between who we know we are and the love that we deserve and the life that we deserve and what our life is like. The bigger gap between who we are and how our life is turning up is why we feel sad. And we wouldn't feel sad if we didn't know our intrinsic value. Otherwise, we'd just be apathetic. And so we need to say the words to ourselves. We need to say the words to our children, and we needed to hear them. And if some of you are thinking, well, I'm in real trouble here because I didn't get that, and I am struggling with self-sabotage, and how the hell am I going to fix it? The most amazing thing, the greatest truth of transformation is that it's not about what happened to you. And I'm not diminishing some of the terrible stories some of you may have in any way. But I've seen people transform some of the most brutal histories because it isn't what happened to you. It's what you made it mean, and it's what you said about it at the time to make it bearable. And you will have made it about your value. I'm here tonight. If you take nothing else away from tonight, I want you to know that your value is in no way anything to do with how people have treated you, how parents have loved you, how they have held you, how they have made you feel loved. It's got nothing to do with your value. And yet, it's really common that impacts on our belief. But most people think that then our self-esteem will be dented, but it isn't. The damage is not to our core value. It's because we have this department inside us, this incredible department inside us that is working really hard to make sense of this. And it is deeply choosing to believe that you are no good, that you are not lovable, that you should not be doing well, that you don't deserve it, and that you shouldn't have expectations, and you definitely shouldn't have hope, and you shouldn't try, you shouldn't care. And so then so commonly the decision we make is, well, I can be loved as long as I add value. I'm intrinsically not of value, so I will go into a relationship where I can be valued because I will add value. So bring me the broken people, bring me the traumatized and the wounded, and let me serve them. Let me heal them. Let me support them. Let me feel that they are dependent upon me so I can trust that I am safe. And again, that's a beautiful strategy to get love and to give love and to be loved. But you don't need to make those choices. And the worst thing about that codependent choice is when we care for people in that way, we don't make them better. We make them worse. And they don't, after a time, they don't appreciate it because their soul knows that somehow we're enabling them. We're worsening them. And so we put all that effort in and we're getting more and more mad and we're going over our boundaries. And then, this nice person completely freaks out, has a complete martyr kind of fit. And you lose your nice guy, nice girl, identity. And joking aside, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to operate from a place where we don't think we have that intrinsic value. And that gap that I'm talking about, that gap between who we are and what we know we're worth and the life that we know we believe that we would enjoy, and the gap between who we are and how our life is appearing, that gap is the space for sadness, the space for anxiety, but way more commonly, that is the space of addiction. That is where we need to distract ourselves. That is where we need to stay busy. That's where we need to have another drink, have another smoke, keep ourselves so busy. The most common addiction in the world is busyness. The most common addiction in the world is business. And people set their lives up to be hectic. And they complain about the hecticness and they complain about always tearing from here to there. But actually they're designing that way. So many business owners I've worked who are struggling. They're struggling because the struggle is their addiction. And it prevents them from stopping and feeling. And so lockdown and COVID and all of this stuff has been amazing because it's and awful, but because it's actually brought people to a place where so many of those methodologies have either not worked or we've gone crazy on our addictions. And it's been really tangible and visible. And so what I have seen so many times is that even if you have been sabotaging and doubting yourself for 60, 70 years, that you are able to find these parts of yourself and you can do this work on yourself and you can negotiate with this part. So this is what I want to speak about now. So the two techniques, the first of the two techniques I want to talk about is our ability to do regression work on ourselves. This ability we have to go and find formative memories, moments in our past where we disconnected from that moment, what I call no moment. The most free person in the world is someone who meets the present moment with a total sense of yes. If we can get to a total sense of yes, where we're not resisting, resenting, we're super present, then it's like the glory and the joy, it's available in any and every single moment. But the reason why most of us don't feel that is because we're preoccupied, we're distracted, we're buzzed on caffeine or pissed or angry or caught, there's a whole bunch of things going on where we're not feeling, we're not in the present. But if we can get present without any resistance, then we can feel amazing. But the reason we don't is because we cannot be truly present unless we can't be 100% yes to the present moment if we're not 100% yes to who we are. Because we're in that moment. If we're in that moment thinking our ass needs to be a bit smaller, or we need to be taller, or we need more hair, then we're not in complete yes to the moment. We're resisting the moment. And so we cannot be 100% yes to who we are if we are not a 100% yes to every single thing that has ever happened to us. And I know that sounds like a massive thing for some of you. That's like, what? I can't be a yes to this stuff. I can't be a yes to a whole bunch of things. And I don't mean we diminish our story. I don't mean that we pretend what happened was great. This is not about denying pain or saying or pretending it's okay or pasting it over. This is about going to some of our most challenging times, our most challenging moments, because it is in those moments that we doubted ourselves. We allowed how people were treating us to define our value. And we allowed it to impact on our global beliefs about what humans are like, what men are like, what money is like, what love is like. We have these parts of us that are in resistance and resentment. But most importantly, what we have inside is frozen parts of ourselves, the inner child. We have the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old and that time that thing happened at school and that time a parent looked at us in that way. And any number of a catalogue of moments where there is this sweet, beautiful, powerful, creative, awesome aspect of yourself, trapped in time, in these no moments where things didn't work, we didn't get what we wanted. And instead of accepting and understanding that it was nothing to do with our value, we believed it was our fault. And we believed it was normal. We believed that's what life is like. And so most people don't realize it's not what happened to you, it's what you made it mean. And these parts remain frozen in time. When we have resistance like this, we've denied our experience. So we've frozen these traumatic moments. And some of you might be thinking, well, I didn't have any really big things. And some of you might be like, my things are too big to deal with. And I promise you, I have helped people and I have seen people help themselves through some of the most awful traumas and come out the other side being at peace with their past, deeply, deeply at peace with their past. The truth is, When we have these difficult moments, these little parts of us freeze. They freeze with self-doubt. They freeze with a colored view of the world. But the other thing that freezes is how they felt. Imagine we have like 10,000 lockboxes in our heart. And a free mind is a full heart. It's a completely open space. And there are no pockets of pain. Yet our happiness levels are the sum total of our lockboxes. So if you have 100 sad memories locked in your heart, then that means you have these fragments of your soul trapped in time. They're still afraid. The most amazing thing about inner child work is you can go, some people say to me, this is like opening a can of worms. What are you doing? Why would you want to go back into the past? You can't change the past. You don't need to. This is not about opening a can of worms. This is about rescuing kids frozen in time and bringing them home, letting them know it's over, letting them know it was never a reflection of their value, and not letting them believe that that's what men are like, or that's what life is like, or that's the truth about what it is to earn money. So many of our beliefs are like cover-ups for our parents' failings. And I am not here to denigrate or vilify your parents, because if they were my clients, I would wrap my loving arms around them too and explore, where did their journey begin? What did they get? What didn't they get? What are we going to do? Go up our generational line and go and beat up our great, 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 great grandparents? No one is to blame. But we're going to let these generational lines of pain define us? You're going to let how people treat you impact on your value? I've got two really, really important questions for you. And I want you to really think about this now. First question. What is it that a newborn baby could do that would mean that they're not deserving of love? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. There's nothing that a newborn baby could do which means that they're not deserving of love. So the second question, when does that change? Some people struggle with that one, but the truth is never. Never. Life is too short. We're babies. We die, if we get to 120, 140, which many of us might do, the way the mortality rate is changing. Life is too short to be truly wise. Life is too short to be anything other than a newborn baby. And I can't tell you, so many people I work with, they're like, oh yeah, but I was a difficult child. It's like, no, I was a difficult teenager. It's like, I am sorry. Yes, you may well have been an absolute bloody nightmare, but if you were, it's because your parents were sitting down at a piano and playing badly and then complaining about the music. It was not appropriate as parents to sit down at a piano, play bad music, and then complain about it. We are a reflection of what we did and we didn't receive. True. But none of that is a reflection of your value, because everyone has intrinsic value. Sunlight shines on everyone equally, as it should. You have a birthright to be free and to be loved. And when we connect to our value in that way, and we transcend our fear, and we experience ourselves as full and complete, not in spite of your past, but precisely because of it, where you have been furnished with empathy and compassion. You see, none of this is a mistake, none of it. And I'm not dismissing how hard it may have been for some of you. For those of you with harder stories, then it is a testament to your soul's journey here. Because when we have the courage to meet with these parts and bring them home, they come with gifts, incredible gifts of creativity and playfulness and positivity and collaborative power, superpowers waiting in frozen form to bloom and blossom. And they are more appreciated because you were without them for a period of time. And I draw on many different spiritual sources, and I'm a pantheist, so I believe in the divine of everything. And included in everything, I believe that you are a god and a goddess, but so is the carpet, so are the walls, so is every single experience. You know, we think we're here, we're embodied to have it easy. We think we're here because we're here just to prosper. It's like we are here to play our small part in evolving the field of consciousness. And we are dealt hard cards at times. And life dares us to close our hearts, dares us. But our job is to go and find those frozen moments, to scoop up those kids, to bring them home and tell them it's over and that you love them and you will look after them and you will let them paint and you will let them dance. And you'll let them play, and that you'll tell them you'll keep them safe in relationship, and you'll be boundaried, and you'll honor yourself, and you'll look after yourself. And so inner child work, I believe, is the most powerful transformation tool in the world. And this is so underrepresented in the world of therapy. I even speak to some people, oh yeah, I've done inner child work. I did 1 or 2 sessions. I'm like, inner child work is not about a little technique you do once or twice. It's about understanding that this is about going to meet with your best friend. And sometimes people are like, how long do I need to do this for? I mean, what is this, 6 months of kind of journey work? I'm like, you are, if I introduce you to like someone that you absolutely adore, you'd never ask that. How many times am I going to have to hang out with them? This is like the greatest source of your greatest power and beauty and grace and playfulness and pleasure. Deepening your relationship, bringing them home, allowing them to align into a story where you get to be amazing, not in spite of your past, but because of it. Which brings me on to the second technique, which is parts negotiation. And this is where you are able to find your saboteur. Now you see here, the title here says protector. Because the truth is that part of you that has pushed away love, cost you money, cost you freedom, cost you joy, was doing it out of love. It was blocking your sense of value so that you never had to connect to the feeling of being disappointed. And so instead of you feeling disappointed in your carers and your parents, which no child ever wants to feel, you blamed yourself. And this was created by this department, your sabotage department. But really, it's a protection department. Their tool is sabotage. Give them a compliment, they're designed to bat it away. No, they must be trying to get something. Someone amazing would absolutely adore you. No, they'll be boring. Let me speak to that guy over there that will never text me back. It is amazing to me how the protector will enable you to go to a bar or go to a place and pick out of a whole room someone who will be amazing for 3 months, and 3 months later will be an absolute nightmare, just to mirror this pattern that you have embedded in your system, that you're not deserving of love and that no one will truly meet your needs. And here's the thing, and I know some of this will be landing hard for some of you. Those aren't mistakes. The pain that creates is an invitation. And the work, the willingness to go and feel the pain, if we go in and you thank the protector for all of the sabotage, no more fighting it, no more battling it, no more trying to stop procrastinating, no more forcing yourself to do the things. Instead of battling with your saboteur with effort, you go and you sit and you thank it. You thank it. Deeply, deeply thank it. And it's listening. As you're listening to me, it is now listening. And we're not here to force it. And the request is to get access to your inner child. To be able to feel the truth. The thing that cures self-sabotage is feeling your inner child's heartbreak. The young 2-year-old in you, the 4-year-old in you that just knew that you deserve better and that you weren't getting what you needed. And for those of you watching this going, oh, my childhood was pretty good, there will have been hundreds of moments where you didn't get what you needed. And for those of you that know that were never told that you were loved, or that you didn't get hugs and kisses and support. It's not just the traumatic moments. There's also traumas of omission. There's the hundreds of things that should have happened that never did. Moments of care, moments of presence, moments of kindness that never happened. Holes in our heart where we were left wanting without even knowing or being able to articulate. And I can see there are a lot of questions coming up. My assistants are going to kind of field some of these questions. And in the Q&A later, they're going to kind of reflect some of these questions. And if your question isn't answered, then you can email them to me afterwards. And even if there are 1,000 questions, I will answer them all. It might take me a while, but I will. So if your question isn't answered today in the session, then we will get around to answering it at some point. And that's it. The cure to self-sabotage is feeling the degree to which you were let down. And that's no small thing. That's no small thing, because the protector doesn't want you to go there, doesn't want you to have confidence, doesn't want you to feel this stuff. He'd much rather think that you're awful. And how many of you at times have completely sabotaged something? I mean, like literally taken a massive spanner and thrown it into something amazing. I know I have. I walked away from some incredible things. Some amazing relationships, some amazing people. I messed them up. And so it's a little bit like this. If you can imagine when you're younger, there's, if you could imagine that inside your operating system, there's like a boardroom. And, you know, when you're 4, they're all sat around the table with like suits too big for them, you know, like in an adult suit trying to work out what's going on, but we don't know, right? And you're the chairman or chairwoman of the board. And then something difficult happens, you know, like a file comes in, you know, and lands on the desk, and it's traumatic. Like, my dad cares more about work, or, you know, mum never says she loves me, or worse, right? And we kind of look at this file as our conscious operating system. We're like, I can't process that. I need to believe they're amazing. I cannot deal with that experience. I will block it. I will store it. And so we hand that file to our most incredible parts of ourselves. And then we force them out of our conscious awareness. And they get locked away and they get frozen in time. But the most amazing thing they do is they mark. Imagine that they mark on the door of where they're locked away how toxic their thought form is. So they're like, oh my God, Dad cares more about work than me right now. Or that's how it appears. So they mark on the door 80 out of 100, 80 out of 100. This is really toxic. This is really scary. Do not approach, do not enter. Repress, repress, deny, deny. And here I am saying, hey, let's go and find these frozen parts. Let's go and find these moments. And so as you then lovingly take yourself to approach these moments, what can happen is your protector sees that the score on the door is like 80 out of 100. It's like, no way we're going in there. No way. That is deeply toxic content. It was trauma and horrible. I don't want to go anywhere near that. But here's the truth. It didn't put a date on the door. And that if we can have the courage, to go back and re-experience those moments, it actually, yes, it can be profoundly emotional, but it feels like a relief. It can feel scary because the stuff that was trapped there is fear. And it can feel like it's self-loathing because the stuff that was trapped there was that. But if we can have the courage to feel it and journey into it, then what it soon comes into is relief, healing, like a great weight has been lifted off, and then the undeniable truth that it was never our fault, that it was nothing to do with our value, that it's not okay, it's not normal, and it heals. It comes to light, and the body can heal it, the mind can heal it. It cannot heal that which is repressed. You can only store it for later healing. When we have these frozen parts, it's like imposter syndrome specifically really comes from when we have so many little parts of us trapped in time that we're doing a presentation at work, or You know, I've so many people I've helped with their fear of public speaking because they think they're afraid of public speaking. And if this applies to you right now, I'm going to tell you right here, you're not afraid of public speaking. Your inner 6-year-old is, and your inner 4-year-old is. And you've been trying to make this kid do adult stuff. And for those of you that ever had any disruptions around your sexuality, any abuse or any traumatic stories, which actually, frankly, I'm sad to say, most people have got many stories like that. Then we often, especially if some of those things happened when we were young, then some people report feeling weird about sex, feeling uncomfortable about being sexual. You can feel icky or unpleasant or inappropriate. And actually, it's because we have a frozen 8-year-old inside us that we're trying to sexualize with another adult. It doesn't feel right. And so some people think that that's damage to their sexual psychology, but actually, once this stuff has been resolved, released, reintegrated, then we no longer have a 6-year-old in our sexuality. Therefore, it feels safe and comfortable and actually pleasurable and positive to then be sexual healthily with boundaries. So these frozen parts of us lock us out of our adult experience. They lock us out of our confidence. And so by bringing these parts home, letting them feel loved, letting them feel safe, letting them know that it was never their fault, with integration, we buy a little bit of our soul back. We get our confidence back. We get our boundaries back. You know, when our needs aren't met when we're a child, it's a little bit like, if you can imagine in your mind, there's this dashboard, like driving a car. And when your needs aren't met, can you imagine, you know, when you're in a car and you don't put the seatbelt on and it beeps at you really annoyingly, it flashes a light and it beeps at you. Well, it's a little bit like that when you're a kid and your needs aren't met. So you're driving through life and then your needs aren't met. And so this really annoying bulb flashes and makes this noise. Your parents are letting you down. Your parents aren't good. Your parents aren't good. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to be aware that our boundaries aren't being, our needs aren't being met, or our boundaries are being transgressed. So, you know, we lick our fingers and we quickly unscrew this hot bulb. No more alarm, no more flashing bulb, no problem. We get to be in denial, we get to be deluded, but we're no longer consciously struggling with the fact that we're being let down. But how do you think that plays out when you're an adult and someone transgresses your boundaries, but you've removed the bulb? And for some of you, you weren't, you know, your boundary would have been transgressed, you wouldn't have even noticed. And for some of you, it's not like, oh, my needs aren't being met. I don't even know. For years, I didn't even know what my needs were. Someone would, you know, I'd give someone a lift to the airport, and about a month later, I'd go, damn it, I didn't want to do that. My no, I didn't really have a fully formed no. So I was saying yes to things and doing things that I didn't want to do. I didn't even realize. And in relationship, I do that so much that I'd end up getting so burnt out and so frustrated that I'd end up finishing a relationship, and that person thought we had the best relationship ever, because they just thought we were just getting on brilliantly, but I was just getting completely burnt out, bending over backwards. And so by rebuilding our value, rebuilding our boundaries, reintegrating these frozen parts of ourselves, letting know that they're loved, that they're lovable, that they deserve love, that you can be boundaried, practicing unapologetic authenticity, re-establishing your healthy no, this inner work, and negotiating with your protector to allow you to experience and to receive and to even maybe ask for what you want, so that you can start experiencing abundance in every area of your life, because you deserve that. And I know some of you are asking if this is being videoed, it is being recorded, and it will be made available to you. If you came to this via registering with Eventbrite, I have your email address, I will send it to you. And it will also be posted in the Facebook link, okay? And I'm hoping you guys will join this free group where you can journey with the techniques that you're going to have free access to, and you can support each other whilst you go on this journey. And so what I wanted to do now is lead you, you know, in a journey to first of all meet with your protector. And this is the part of you that has been causing a lot of trouble, and thank you. This is the plan. Now, you're going to give you a few different ways to do this. So if you don't feel ready to do that, you don't need to force this. And you're going to have plenty of chance to use these techniques and do it in your own time, in your own way. But the invitation is to come on this meditative journey, to meet with your protector, to thank it, and to ask it for access to your inner child. And just to invite that young version of you to come and be with you this evening or this afternoon, or whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. And to let that part of you feel safe, feel seen, and to make a commitment to that part that you are now really deeply ready to journey with it, to journey to its no moments, to find those times when it didn't get what it needed, and to help it be honest about the fact at times it was just heartbroken. And to apologize to it that you have not always been able to be there for it. You have left it in the dark, dealing with things that it was too young to handle because you were not ready. And so you've had to hold yourself back, hold yourself down, deny your own value, and play out these patterns of pain that do not belong to you. And this is not about falling out with your parents. This is not about causing trouble in your family dynamic. And I do not suggest that you then go and speak to your family about this stuff tomorrow until you have worked through some of these patterns, because actually it'll end up just being an attack if you're not careful. Like many times you'll have tried to talk to your parents about how they were to try and make things better, but all you would have ended up doing is just being incredibly covertly or even overtly critical. And so within that Facebook group, I'm going to share with you some tools on how to go about cleaning up our relationships. And that's not so that we can make their lives better necessarily. And for some of you watching this and then my parents are dead, you can't help with that. Actually, your relationship to reality is still defined by your relationship with your parents. And you can work on your relationship to parents whether they are alive or not. And it can have a magical impact because it's really about the position that we are holding ourselves in and the relationship we have to life. And the truth is, once we have transcended our resentment, once we have released our anger, once we have integrated our inner children, I know my clients' journeys are complete when they are truly grateful for that they first complained about. Because the truth is, when we have pain, unresolved pain in our life, it is a magnet. It will draw to us people and events and situations where we will have a repeat of our pain. So commonly someone turns up in my private practice and they're complaining about some situation in their present day life, which is awful. And it is awful, but I know that would only be happening if there is something unresolved. So it's an invitation. And sometimes it's as simple as inviting them to close their eyes, to feel the anger or the sadness, and to drop into where they feel that in their body, and then to ask them, where have they felt this before? And then they drop into this deeper healing about their family, about their story, about their past, about their childhood, go on a profound journey of healing. And at the end, I say, how do you feel about the fact that boss was bullying you, or that thing, or that breakup, you know? And they're like, well, if I hadn't have had that, I wouldn't have had this healing and I wouldn't be where I am now. So I'm truly grateful for that thing that I first complained about. And ultimately freedom and a free mind that I'm bang on about is about getting to that place where we are 100% yes to everything that's ever happened to us, because then we can be a complete yes to who we are, where we get to be amazing, not in spite of our past, but because of it. It's not meant to be easy. I don't diminish the suffering some of you may have had, but it's about what are we going to do? This is our hero's journey. We get one chance in life. What are we going to do? We're going to stay in a place where we're in resentment and criticism, where we feel ourselves walking around with a broken wing, not able to fly fully because of something that someone else did, because of their own generational issues. Or are we going to be the transitional person in the lineage of pain, and by transforming our relationship to it, go from victim to victory, go from curse to blessing, from imprisoned to free? And so I want to lead you on this journey. For some of you, be like, I don't want to do this now. You don't have to. You can check out. And you can catch it on the recording, or you can use the tools that you're going to be sent, these powerful guided meditations that enable you to do this work on yourself. Or you can journey now. Now, for some of you who are choosing to journey now, it's really important that you just let this be whatever it is, that you don't bring an attachment to outcome. Some of you might get a really vivid visualization of your protector. And it could be tempting, despite everything I've said, to grab that person around the throat and throttle them for all the things that they've done and all the trouble that they have caused. But please don't do that. Please follow the guidance. And some of you won't get any imagery at all. You might just get feelings in your body. Some of you might not get anything at all because it's just not right now. It's just not the time for you. It might be tomorrow, but it might not be tonight. So just let this be whatever it is. Some of you might have a good chat with your protector, but then really struggle to kind of connect with your inner child, either visually or emotionally. When you're doing inner child work, the way to think about it is it's like self-adoption. And if you adopt a kid or you foster a kid, you don't give them kind of one hug and one meal and expect them to come down the next day like full of the joys of spring. You know, it takes time. It takes consistent care and a deep patience and a deep willingness. So this is not necessarily about creating a complete journey. This is about a beautiful beginning, that you're going to be able to continue yourself. And for the last 21 years, I have been finding pockets of confusion and pain and doubt and bringing them to light, putting them to rest, and finding love from my timeline and my story, and understanding that my mess is my message, and all the things that I've experienced enable me to do what I do now. And I wouldn't change any of it. Doesn't mean I'm pretending it wasn't really hard at times. So just to give you a bit of an overview so that you can make a conscious decision if you want to do this now. It's going to begin with some relaxation and some music. The music has specific frequencies in it that are designed to put you into an open meditative state. Doing it now with this many people, we've still got, I think we've got 476 people here now. That's a massive opportunity to go in deep. And the shared intention we have here, we're not just doing this for ourselves, we're doing this for each other. And that if we journey with each other now, that maybe something really profound could happen for someone here that could end up changing their lives tonight. And I've seen it, and it's possible. So without being attached to any kind of outcome like that, I'd like to invite you to journey. Now, if you choose not to journey with this, that's also fine, but I would ask you to stop messaging in the chat. It's a time to respect this space. Either you're going to come on this journey, or I'd invite you to kind of check out or jump back in for the Q&A a little bit later. So if you do just want to observe, that's fine, but I will ask you to not like kind of be chatting about where you're from in the world in the chat box. So it will begin with relaxation. I'll be playing certain music, and then invite you to go to a place of relaxation, a place that you love. This just increases the oxytocin and the dopamine in your system, enhances relaxation, and it also improves visual recall. I will then invite you to invite to that space your protector, the person that has been sabotaging your success and your life. And I invite you to acknowledge that that part has been trying to help and has been protecting you from past pain, and that you're sorry that you've been battling with it. You're sorry you've been doubting yourself. And that even though it's caused a lot of trouble, you're grateful for its intention. And that you would very, very much like access to now go and directly support your inner child with their actual trauma, to no longer be protected from it and be held back by it anymore. Now that part is already listening. That negotiation is already beginning. Some of you may already be feeling emotional because you know it's time and because you know how important this is. And some of you might feel very stuck or very trapped or very uncertain. Some of you might just feel anxious. Okay, so as I said, this is a chance, this is a beginning. Some of you might be like, oh, I don't know if this is right for me. And if they have that feeling, then I would say, you don't need to do it now. If at any time you want to stop, you can stop. It's perfectly safe for you to do so. And it isn't possible to force people to feel things or to access things that isn't appropriate for them. Today is not about opening up lots of painful past memories. It is about opening up a line of communication with your inner child and letting it know that you are willing to support it. And with that, it is possible that some memories may surface here and some young versions of you may appear that need your support. And if that happens, it's meant to. Throughout the whole process, I'll be playing music. In the main part of it, I'll be playing therapeutic music, which is designed to evoke emotion and evoke beauty and grace, and it will support you. The most amazing thing is if you ask your mind to use music to be the therapy. If you make the music the metaphor you need, then you might visualize having some resolution with your inner child. You might just imagine hugging him or her. Or you might just feel movement in your body, like something profound is shifting and changing without even needing to see anything visual. But I'll invite you in this journey to use the music. And then it can be super powerful. So once again, just letting it be whatever it is. Letting there just be gentle curiosity. And so, to begin, my invitation is for you to get into a position where you can be comfortable as best as possible. And so you can turn the volume up and lie on the floor if you want, or you can sit in your chair. But you no longer need to kind of make eye contact with the screen. You can allow your eyes to close. And if you want to just journey with this, but without going in, that's also allowed. You can just watch what's happening and connect in whichever way feels safe and appropriate for you. So just take a moment just to allow your eyes to close. So just allowing yourself to come round, no matter what that was or how that was. And so counting up from 1 to 10, just allowing this to integrate. So 1 and 2, just gently bring your awareness back to your fingertips and your toes. 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, maybe wiggling your hands and your toes, maybe having a little stretch. And 7 and 8, opening your eyes if you haven't done so already. 9 and 10, maybe kind of washing your hands with your face. Maybe allowing yourself to have a stretch. And then I just recommend just putting your arms around your shoulders and just, no matter how that was, no matter how you're feeling, just giving yourself a little bit of a squeeze. Give yourself a hug, like you mean it, like you have tenderness for yourself. And I really can't iterate enough that, you know, for some of you that might have been clunky or just not connecting or frustrating, and just be really gentle with yourself. You know, I've been helping people journey in this way, and some people who've struggled so much to connect beautifully with this and end up being able to have such profound breakthroughs. It's not always easy, and it's possible for everybody. So just be really gentle with yourself. It takes practice, and so there's a chance now. And there have been some amazing comments coming up, people surprised that did something and so on. But there's a chance here to take a few questions. I'm going to speak a bit about the resources you have to support yourself after that. And then you have a wider Q&A. But just right now, If there's any questions that have come up, James, or Ashley, as you've been watching this, do you think would be useful to bring to the group? Or if someone just got a reflection of something that happened there that was that connected or worked, or if someone was particularly blocked, then there's a chance here to ask a question. So you can put questions into the box and James might kind of have a look, or I might have a look, and we'll see where we get to. If there isn't anything that emerges right now or no one wants to come on, that's also fine. You can just put the question in the chat box and I can answer it there.
It was a good one, Tom. It was, how do you initially approach meeting your protector and be aware that you have?
So yeah, thank you. That is a good question. I see some other questions happening here as well, so I'll answer some of those as well. These are classic, common questions. So first of all, the best way to approach the protector is with real faith that even if it's been causing trouble, that it has been trying to help. So to really, and it can be hard in the beginning. It can be really hard. You're like, really, this part has caused a lot of trouble. But it's only when it feels deeply understood that it will give you a chance to change it. And so with a massive heart, basically. And to trust that even though it might not appear visually, it's still listening. It's been listening the whole time I've been talking. And it can take a while because sometimes the protector perpetuates the sabotage patterns by confusing us around the things I've talked about. So sometimes I'll be working with a client for a while and explaining you're blocking yourself to prevent you from feeling how badly you were let down. You cover that a lot. And their resistance going to those places of pain because it's painful. And then, I don't know, a month later, they come in and they're like, oh my God, I realized something massive. I realized I have been blocking that pain by blaming myself. And it's like they've never heard it before. And so I actually created a video, which I'll post in the Facebook group we're going to create. And I'll put it in the follow-up email that will be going out where the copy of the recordings will be, which you can watch to understand that principle, or you can watch this recording. But that is an 8-minute video and it explains in really simple terms why we sabotage, because some of you might have totally got it tonight. And when you wake up tomorrow you'll be like, what was that thing? Why does it work? Why is this a good thing that I'm completely getting in the way of myself? And so you will have that resource. So some of you who also asked the question, how do we stop ourselves from falling asleep? Sometimes we're tired. And so when we go into our inner world, we drop off to sleep. At other times, it's resistance. We're afraid to go there and we'll drop off to sleep. It's important to trust the system. Sometimes we shouldn't push too hard. And people sometimes worry, you opening things beyond people's capability. But what I've seen is we don't tend to go where we can't handle. And because resistance wins, you can't fight the resistance. It just takes time. So sometimes we're falling asleep because we're afraid. And so to be gentle with ourselves when that happens. But if it's tiredness, then it's good to do the meditations in the morning, to do the processes in the morning once you're fully rested, and you'll be less likely to fall asleep. If that still happens, then you can listen to the meditations standing up or sitting upright in a chair as opposed to lying down, or you can do it sitting up. Never ever use the meditations whilst you're driving. One, because it's not safe, it puts you into a meditative state, but also you'll have to block the effectiveness of meditation to stay alert to drive. So I see some people are worrying. They've been in other groups and other places and the resources never happen. I promise you, if you joined via Eventbrite and I have your email, then an email will be going out. If it hasn't arrived, then check your spam folder. But I will be creating a Facebook group where all these resources will be. And my encouragement is that you guys will come on a journey to support each other whilst you use these recordings. It is so powerful to come together as a group. So what I have created is, hold on 1 second, is created the Free Mind app, which has over 280 healing and inspirational and supportive meditations. And so in the email that goes out, you're going to get free access to this for like 30 days. So you can try it and see it, and you use all the recordings. But specifically, there are 2 recordings, which are the main healing ones, these techniques. And we're going to give you the Spotify links to those recordings that you can use forevermore. You can use evermore to do this important healing work yourself. And they'll go in the email, and they will go in the Facebook group. But the additional use of the Free Mind app, it's got all of these other recordings that can help you support yourself and do this healing work on yourself. And so there has been so much love that has gone into the creation of these recordings. We've worked with film composers, we've worked with a state-of-the-art studio, and this is me in the studio pouring my heart out into these recordings. We've been making them for 15 years. And so what I was hoping is you would join this free, it's completely free. It's a 21-day self-love activation based on the principles we've shared here: inner child, past negotiation, regression work. It's a free experience, and it's a chance for you guys to support each other whilst you journey. This is not going to be a massive addition to your to-do list. I do not want to be giving you daily tasks and loads of stuff to do. There will be gentle invitations. There will be things to do. The expectation is that you'll just do these inner child journeys, that you'll talk to your protector, that you'll connect with your inner child, and that you'll just share your experience. And that whilst you share your experience, you will support each other. The invitation is that if you can comment on each other's journeys and support each other, the chances of you guys having breakthroughs, having insights, and seeing each other's journey. I'll be doing regular videos to support you. I'll answer any questions that you have there, so that whilst you're using these recordings, you'll have support of a community of people going on this journey. That is just so valuable. For those of you that already have the Free Mind app, yes, these recordings are already in it in the healing section. If you go to the healing collection, the 2 main recordings, one is called Negotiation, and you can use Negotiation to go and meet with any part of you that struggles to get up in the morning or procrastinates or any of those things. But your invitation is to use that recording to meet with your protector, to meet with your self-saboteur, and to thank it. And the recording will walk you through the whole process. And that recording is way more powerful than what I just did live. You know, it's set to bespoke film music, and it coordinates with the voice, and it's just, it's epic. And it will enable you to do the deepest healing and to dissolve that idea that it was ever your fault. And I get emails every week from people having the most profound breakthroughs, doing it themselves. Yes, being guided by a recording, but finding the answers yourself. And that opens the way for you to use the recording called Support, which is a 70-minute program that enables you to go and meet with your inner child and just love it to bits, to bring it home, to heal any moments, to go to any no moments, to access memories, to bring them to peace, to bring them to deep peace. And I'm so excited to share it with you, so excited that you will be together on this. So the invitation to this private group will be completely confidential, and it'll be a space for you to be able to use these recordings, support each other. And I know there's a load of questions coming up here, and that group will be the place where we can answer those. It's quite amazing, the things that are people saying here, talking about the difficult things that they've gone through. And I promise you, I think I remember some years ago, I did some work, and this elderly couple shuffled into my practice. This is when I lived in Birmingham. And they came in, and she sat down, her husband sat down, and he was very kind of browbeaten, and he kind of settled her in the chair and went out. And I said, well, how can I help? And she was like, I'm mean to my husband. I've been mean to him for years. And it was just one beautiful, magical session. She met with her protector. She was trying to live out the narrative that she was unlovable. And he had adored her. And despite her best attempts to put him off, he had stayed with her. And 2 weeks later, I had the most beautiful but heartbreaking card from her, because she's like, this has been the best 2 weeks of our marriage. I just can't believe I spent 50, 60 years living like this. And it was actually so easy to change it. And I don't want to say that because it's going to be easy for all of you to shift this, because sometimes some areas are so easy to shift and others are incredibly difficult to move. And it's not about a one-stop, and it's not about an easy fix. This is about a beginning, a deep and loving long-term relationship with your inner child. And so now I see people talking about how they can help their own children or children who are adopted, and all these tools are so vital in understanding if we are a parent, or if we've been parented, or if we're a manager. So many places people sabotage turns up, and people just holding themselves back. Someone asked, how is procrastination related to self-sabotage? It's like, well, because procrastination is one of the most common forms of self-sabotage, because if we procrastinate, we just don't get things done. We don't give it our best work. We delay it and we delay it, we delay it, and we tell ourselves, oh, I get it all done in the last minute. It's not your best work. And then you can kind of, if you don't get it or it doesn't go well, you can blame it on the fact you rushed it. It's just a way of protecting yourself from pain and holding yourself back. And the form of self-sabotage turns up in so many ways, but I mean it, the simplest way to work out if you're sabotaging, if you have a sabotage pattern, it is, how do you receive compliments? How do you ask for help? Are you able to ask for help? Are you able to believe people will truly be there for you? When someone pays you a compliment, do you accept it? And so I really, really hope to see lots of you engaging with the recordings and in the 21-day self-love activation, all based on inner child work. And I also want to let you know, if you are around on Saturday, another free event is the Shine 1-day celebration of life. Now this, I use every January for the last 4 or 5 years. I've run a 4-day event called Shine. And it's a celebration. And it's about bringing all these tools of music and meditation and movement and playfulness and loads of short films and cool YouTube clips and stuff about the crazy, beautiful universe we live in, and a chance to come and celebrate together. So if you fancy having an incredibly unapologetically positive, inspiring, uplifting, and kind of self-loving day on Saturday, then you are all most welcome. So my hope is that I will see you guys coming to these events, getting involved in this Facebook group, and using the app, using the recordings, and seeing their beauty. My passion is to get these tools out there. Of course, we're hoping, all of us that have put all this effort into the app, that after the free trial, some of you might choose to subscribe. So we're doing an incredible offer where you can get the app for a year for £29. So some people have already been using it. We gave it away for 6 months. So that's part of our hope here. I've learned that if we just give away loads and loads of value, and we truly care, people see that and they just want to get involved and want to sign up for some of the other things that we do. So I'm really, really happy. I know some people have to go, but it's time now. I'm really happy to answer any more questions. If there are some big ones that have come up, I'm really, really happy. I realize some of you may want to go, and I won't be remotely offended, but I just want to stay on here and just answer a few more questions if people have anything they want to ask. So I'm so touched and so grateful that you guys have come and journeyed here, and that you're willing to invest this time in loving your protector and getting to love your inner child and freeing yourselves from these limiting patterns, which do not need to define us. One of my favorite kind of phrases from this work is not to allow our past to define us, but let it instead to refine us. So someone's just asked, how do we access the workshop if we're not on Facebook? So the Shine 1-day celebration will just be like this. It's a Zoom space. And it's actually the same Zoom link. So you can just use the same Zoom link, 10 o'clock on Saturday. It's 10 till 5 p.m. and you can come and join the day. The support group will be run in Facebook. So if you're not on Facebook, then you're not going to be able to access that support group. There's nothing I can do about that. It's a really simple and easy space for me to run a support group. So that's why I do it there at the moment. So I'm sorry if that excludes anyone. And I do promise the 21 days will not be massive amounts of tasks. It's just a holding space whilst you're journeying with these recordings to connect with yourself, where there'll be other people doing the same thing, and I'll be making reflections, and my assistants and other qualified free mind therapists who are amazing, beautiful people who will be there to support you whilst you journey and give amazing reflections and guidance on their journey with free mind. So all of the links and all of the resources will be in the email that went out. If you didn't register for this via Eventbrite, but you're already on my mailing list, it will be sent out anyway. If you're worried I haven't got your email and it doesn't arrive tomorrow, then you can reach out, or you can message me on Facebook with your email address and you'll be included. So I'm happy to take a few questions. And so I'm just going to have a little look in the chat box, so just bear with me a little. James, anything that you've seen that you think's of note? Oh, so yeah, someone said they weren't sure if they connected to their protector. They got very distracted by the noise. And I know there was some technical challenges with the music early on in my voice, so apologies for that. The presentation software seemed to affect the vocal stuff. But someone asked, how often do you do this? So if you're getting access to your protector and your inner child, then I would, like if you have a profound session where you feel something's healing and healed, then I wouldn't rush to do it again for a few days. I just let that settle. But if you're trying to use these tools and you feel blocked and you feel a bit stuck, then it's totally fine to kind of try it every day. Totally fine if you do it, once a week. I would say if you really want to get some momentum going, I wouldn't do it too sporadically. But this stuff is most powerful. There's a recording in the app called Emotional, and that recording, if you get triggered, when you're triggered, when you're upset, when you're challenged with something, that's the best time to do inner child work. That's when the universe is coming for you. It's basically, we know when we're overreacting to something. We know when we're overly emotional about something. And that's an incredible opportunity to dive in deep and find those parts of yourself and give them support. Find out what they're worried about. So someone's just asked how long until we should feel the benefit. Well, in terms of sometimes you'll do one session and connect with yourself and feel like you've just healed like one memory so powerfully and profoundly that even in that moment, it will feel incredible. Yes, there may be tears, first of sadness and then of joy. And it can feel like we just brought a fragment of our soul back home. And the first time I experienced it, the next day I woke up, I felt, I don't know, 2%, 3%, like better about myself in my entirety immediately. And it's like, and that might not sound like a lot, but it blew me away that a half-hour process where I had a big cry and I thought differently about something made such a difference.
Tom, there's a question. How do you find forgiveness for the hurt caused to others by your sabotaging?
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. Well, I think, one of the most beautiful things about this work is when we journey deeply into our dysfunctional behavior and we realize that it was coming from a child who desperately wanted to act out and be unlovable. When we really see it, not just theoretically, but when we really see it and we really feel it, we feel such profound compassion for that part of ourselves that's the foundation from which we can begin to find forgiveness. But there is external work to be done in terms of cleaning up. When we have acted out and caused pain, it is appropriate to follow a set of kind of protocols to put things to rest. where appropriate, and it's not always appropriate to contact people because it doesn't serve them. It wouldn't be kind to those people, but where it's kind and where it's useful, there is a process, a well-trodden process of how to go about cleaning up those mistakes that we've made and those people that we've hurt. And sometimes having that explanation can be really, really valuable. But here's the other thing. You know, I said that I know my client's healing is complete when they feel truly grateful for the thing that they previously complained about. When we start to understand this work, it really helps us get to a non-dualistic relationship with good and bad. We start to realize that actually the things that were really bad were actually invitations for deep healing. So they were actually really good. And at the same time, in this life, we are either lost or found in different moments and different times. And I know that when I was most lost, I did hurt people and I did cause trouble, but I also know that if those people pay attention to that pain, it will be this an incredible opportunity for them to look at what was happening in their life, what has happened in their past. And so it's not like a license to go around triggering everybody and being awful. It's like, oh, well, it's for their healing. I don't mean that. But the truth is there is an interconnection between our bad behavior and other people's healing. And so when we can forgive ourselves and we can understanding is the foundation of forgiveness. Because actually, if we didn't consciously choose to hurt people and it was driven by trauma, we're not responsible. And ultimately, no one is responsible. And no one is really in control. If someone's being dysfunctional, they're not choosing that. It's being driven unconsciously. So I'm just noticing other comments. So yes, someone asked, I feel a bit nauseous. Is that common? So sometimes when we're approaching, do you remember I said when we're approaching some content to heal, it can be vertiginous. It can make us feel like there's a sense of vertigo, like we're going to drop into something dangerous or scary. So yes, we can feel nauseous. We can feel out of breath. We can suddenly feel like we need the toilet. We could have a laughing fit, a coughing fit. Our unconscious will stop us from accessing this content because it gets scared. And so go really gently. Don't force yourself. Don't push yourself beyond resistance. Just lovingly support those parts of you that feel scared, and just go gently. Do it gently.
Tom, someone's asked, how do you deal, or how can we deal, the best way to deal with disassociation?
Okay, so I imagine that means in the, well, so when we meditate or we use these hypnotic transcendent states, then it's not uncommon for us to physically dissociate. Arguably, lots of people do that or meditate for years to get to a dissociated state where we're not connected to the body. And our identity is loosened from the physical form. And so on one level, it's a transcendent spiritual state that can be profoundly liberating, from which we can have great objectivity about our thoughts and emotions and our identity even, and our mortality. But when it comes to trauma, sometimes when we're going to go to a time of healing, we will dissociate. In other words, we will pull away. Our resistance will take the form of disappearing. We can fall asleep, or we can physically dissociate from the experience so that we numb out to it. Also, the other thing that people don't realize is when we experience trauma, dissociation is one of our defense mechanisms. It's an incredible defense mechanism designed for lots of things, but mainly for when we were being eaten. So in wild animals, if we get mauled or eaten, the universe, nature has this mechanism where we can not be present whilst it happens, basically. We will dissociate and we'll have an out-of-body experience, and our body can be eaten and we can be destroyed by an animal. And although there's an initial suffering, we check out and we're gone for the experience. And that's also true for the moments of trauma or neglect or abuse. So what happens is we are accessing trauma, and what we experience is dissociation. And we might think, oh, I'm being resistant or I'm numbing out sometimes, but actually what can be happening is you are actually releasing repressed experience of dissociation, the repressed content of dissociation. So sometimes it can actually be healing to just stay with that sense of dissociation, and then it can drop in, and then you go from the numbness to the actual experience that you were avoiding. So sometimes it can be actually a really valuable step towards healing.
Tom, there's a good one here. Is perfectionism a form of self-sabotage?
It's a really, really common form of self-sabotage. So it comes in the form of the performer model, where we've internalized that we're not okay, right? So like a lot of firstborns, we have a belief that we've been replaced or we're not okay. And so we decide, damn it, I am going to be amazing. I am going to push myself, and I'm going to prove to the world I'm not flawed. I'm going to fight against this sense of inadequacy, and I'm going to drive myself to exhaustion to get it right. But of course, perfection is not possible. And so because we don't quite feel ready, sometimes perfectionism and procrastination go hand in hand, because we never pulled the trigger on a project, or we never deliver, or we never try because we're desperate. We don't have the capacity to fail because we so desperately need to be perfect, because we're so terrified that we're imperfect, that it prevents us from living.
There's a question here, Tom. Is this safe to do on our own? What if your protector releases information that you had no idea of?
So this is the kind of, am I opening a can of worms question? And it's a really valid one. And what I've seen is our protector won't give us access to stuff that we're not ready to feel. But it's important we go really gently. We're not pushing ourselves. And if people have got complex PTSD or dissociative personality disorders or schizophrenia or some more profound mental health issues, then your work should be done with a mental health professional, right? So this work and these techniques are generally for people who may well have had a lot of trauma and may be in a lot of anguish, may be profoundly depressed or anxious, but are still, what I would say, they don't have a mental health disorder of that magnitude. If anyone's listening and they feel that they fall in that category, I have great compassion and support, and there are things that can be done, but everything you do should be done in conjunction with a mental health professional. Doing that stuff yourself, it's not necessary that it will cause trouble, but it's more likely that it will just be blocked. And so it'll be complex and complicated. But what I have seen is that if we have trauma in us that we weren't aware of, it will be acting out. It will be causing trouble in our life. So for me, freedom comes from knowing the truth of how we feel and what happened to us, and having the courage to journey into that stuff. It's otherwise our trauma runs us. So we might not be aware of it, but it'll be affecting our relationships. It'll be affecting our love life, our work life, everything. So for me, it's worth going in.
I have one here, which is I had very physical sensations in areas of my body where I have developed inflammation and autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
So interesting that was the overriding experience, as I've been wondering recently whether the trauma has manifested itself physically.
Thank you. Really important question. And what I'll be sharing on the 21-day challenge is a really interesting list of emotional causes that are linked to physical conditions. Some physical conditions are physical conditions. They're not always driven by an emotional cause. For instance, if you had mercury put into your teeth, then that mercury could well be causing trouble in your body, and you can get any number of health conditions, and that's not necessarily linked to emotional trauma. So some health conditions do have a physiological cause, which is not psycho-emotional. But I would say the majority of physical conditions do have a psycho-emotional cause. And yes, a common form of self-attack comes in the autoimmune conditions, and they are often a reflection of a combative relationship with ourselves. And so that when we start doing inner child healing, it can have great relevance with those kind of conditions. And I've seen lots of people do some quite incredible things on their healing journey by bringing self-love to where there was previously self-attack. and the immune issues where the immune system is attacking itself start to get resolved.
Another good one here is fear of missing out a form of self-sabotaging. I find it hard to commit into long-term relationships in fear that I'm not with the right one, or the right one will come after I've committed to the person.
Yeah, I think a fear of commitment is definitely indicative of trauma and indicative of, and sometimes it can be the thing that we're worried about, but sometimes it's also just about being deeply met and deeply seen. It can often be a cover story for the fact that we worried that if we really jump in deep with someone and they really get to know us, that they're going to discover something about us that they're not going to love and not going to like. And so we kind of project that out onto others. So it's our fear that we will get with someone and then realize they're not great, but it's also often a fear that we don't want to be discovered as lacking either. So both of those things can happen, yeah.
How do you find forgiveness for the hurt caused to others by your sabotaging? I think we had that one.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it's a good question. So I see that other people are asking for book recommendations. Some people are saying they've just ordered my book, which is wonderful. The Free Mind Experience definitely goes into more detail about these two techniques, but it also covers the other techniques around power and purpose, which I think are the full six, what I call the big six. So these ones are all about doing the healing work. And but there are some other amazing books. So I will share some book recommendations in the support email that goes out after this. That's a really good idea. I'm just taking a moment to see if there are any other questions that are coming up. And so, yeah, someone's asking here just about feeling deserving and feeling good enough, and that they might feel it in certain areas, but in other areas of their life, they don't believe it. And so, yes, this is, in simple terms, this is really about connecting to our deep deserving and to really believe, And so within the three pillars of Free Mind, of peace, power, and purpose, we talk about the quadrants of love, which is feeling deeply loved, connecting to our desire to be loving, and also feeling utterly lovable. And that's where we have our peace, our power, and our purpose. And in that place, we feel unconditional love for others. And we are able to, in our unconditional loving, we also have unconditional receiving. So many people that struggle with self-value, when someone does something nice for them, so it's like pushing away a compliment, but if someone does something nice to you, you'll want to fall over yourself to return the favor, to balance out the kind act, but to actually just receive unconditionally. That's a huge thing for people. It's a huge thing. I remember once I was on a workshop and after a long day of process work, we were rewarded by an incredibly kind and tender massage. But we weren't able to know who was delivering it. We were blindfolded. It was a beautiful foot massage. But I remember finding it unbearable that I didn't know who had done that foot massage for me, because I just wanted to thank them or do something for them. And actually it was so telling that I just couldn't just receive it, that I didn't have to transactionally make up for it. And how when someone is doing something nice for me, I'm so ready to stop them previously, or to not put them out for too long, or not wanting to be a burden, not wanting to ask, not wanting to be a cost, wanting to always serve, wanting to always add, not wanting to complicate. And so, yeah, really learning how to ask for what we want, letting people say no, trusting people will look after themselves or they won't, and allowing ourselves at times to put someone out, to have our own needs met. This stuff felt like it was against the grain of my soul, but I'm getting better and better at it. And it's completely transformed my life. For years, I was running workshops and trying to bring people to what I was doing. And, you know, people would barely turn up. And I've been saying the same thing. I've improved how I talk about it probably, and I've definitely improved my certainty around the techniques. But I've been saying the same thing for 21 years. But, I mean, 2,000 people signed up for this tonight. You know, usually get a third of the people actually turn up on the night. So, but that's amazing to me, and that's a reflection of the fact that I have been grounding deeper and deeper in the value I have to bring, and my deserving to receive.
I think we had about 750 people going through, dropping on up and down.
Yeah. So that's usually about a third. That's a great result. So it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
The question here is, how does a person stop the feeling of paralysis in the midst of a depressive episode, such as doing basic tasks, e.g. showering, brushing teeth, anything?
Yeah, so often, you know, and it can be really, really difficult when we drop into a deep depressive state, right? Really, really painful. But the truth is, it's so common that when our life is not a reflection of who we are, when we're not being boundaried, when our soul doesn't trust that we will ask what we want, when our soul doesn't trust that we will partner with people that will honor us, when we're not looking after ourselves, we're not believing in ourselves, and we have unresolved trauma, our system closes down. It stops us leaving the house. It doesn't want us even to do basic functions because it wants us to stop and think. It wants us to stop and feel. So the hardest thing to do, and the seemingly kind of counterintuitive thing to do when we're feeling bad, is to swim ever deeper into the darkness. And I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but actually it is only by having the courage to be able to ask ourselves the difficult questions about who am I, what am I doing, how am I living, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling, what am I upset about that has not been healed and resolved. It is by going deeply, deeply within with courage and openness and being willing to listen to the answers and being willing to take action on the signposts that we then find our way bit by bit, slowly back towards the truth of who we are and the light of our being. I've seen it many, many, many times. It is unresolved emotional content that needs to be felt, released, understood, forgiven, and moved through, so then we liberate ourselves to make different choices that are more in keeping with who we truly are, so that we start to feel better. So I see a question here. How do we go about forgiving the ones who put us in that state of trauma where we are forced into self-sabotaging? Is it all right not to not forgive them? Totally. And there's a journey with that, where whilst we refuse to forgive, we are holding in place that what happened was wrong. And whilst we hold in place what happened was wrong, we inevitably hold ourselves as broken. And so this is in no way dismissing some of the trauma or abuse we may have experienced in any way. It's not making it okay, and it's not pretending that it was right. But if we can take a different perspective and we can recognize that maybe some of those things that happened are opportunities to go deeper into ourselves and find inside ourselves other gifts, other powers, they make us better parents, they make us better friends. We have deeper empathy, deeper compassion. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a dark place and then had the misfortune of talking to someone that has never felt depression or never been anxious and gotten advice from one of those well-meaning people that says, just cheer up, or just, go for a walk, or, it's just like our dark places furnish us with our humanity. And that if we can have the faith to journey into them, we can find gold in the middle of the darkest place. And so our souls may have been charged with some incredibly difficult things, but if we can find a way to find beauty in it and to allow our character to be refined because of it, then there is a place we get to where we look back on that, we're like, wow, I would not wish that on anyone. And I'm not pretending that that was okay. That was completely corrupt and immoral and awful, and I wouldn't change it. And in that place, we are no longer broken. We are free. And from that place of freedom, we are powerful. And from that place of power, we are abundant, and we get to live a life of purpose, not because of what's happened to us, but because of who we are. That is freedom. And in that place, incredible, we then move from the duality of forgiveness, where we still have this idea that one thing is good and one thing is bad, or something is right and something is wrong. And we actually find ourselves in a state of freedom beyond judgment, beyond morality. And in that place, life becomes way more magical. And there's nothing to forgive even. We just have gratitude for everything. And we know that everyone that has trespassed against us has done so because they have been trespassed against. There's a lineage of pain that people are operating from that is outside of their control. And I don't offer that as some kind of glib, like placation, which excuses abusers. I don't mean it like that. It's just understanding the lineage of pain and how it plays out. When we go deeply into our suffering enough, we can't help but find compassion for others that are lost. We're either lost or found. And those that are lost can be awful. But it is possible to find a way to find love and forgiveness. And if we can and we do, it will ennoble our lives. But it cannot be forced. And it can't be done until we can find the beauty in who we are because of what we've experienced. So we can't choose forgiveness. Like, we can't choose any spiritual state. We can't make a commitment or a New Year's resolution about these things. They have to arrive naturally. Gratitude, forgiveness, they can't be chosen. They can be focused on, and we can create fertile soil for them to bloom and blossom. But
there's one here. Do you have any advice for those who tend to fall asleep? Besides doing meditations in the morning, I do suspect it's a form of avoiding the problem. But can you imagine it's quite a difficult one to tackle?
Yeah, like I said, so, meditating in the morning or meditating, standing up, that really stops. It really stops it. In my life, I'm kind of moving through sleep apnea, and I have actually managed to fall asleep standing up once. So I thought I had, what's that condition where you just fall? It's narcolepsy. So it kind of turns up a bit like narcolepsy once. And I did manage to fall asleep whilst walking once, which was a very weird experience. So you can fall asleep while standing, but it's less likely to happen. So. And so I'm aware that some of you are, if there are still some burning questions, I'm happy to take one more question, but I'm aware it's been a long session, and there's a space in these 21 days where we can journey together, and I can answer lots more questions, and I can support you directly whilst you journey with these recordings. So I really, really hope you'll join in, that you'll trust that it won't take up too much of your time, and that if you can commit, if you can commit to this work. And I know some of you are struggling with sabotage or whatever, so that part might get in the way, but actually your protector wants to be understood. It wants to be understood. It wants to be given a chance to look after you in new ways. It just doesn't know how. So you're not firing your protector. You're rehiring it. You're actually loving it and supporting it. It's one of the most powerful parts of you. And it's exhausted holding back your potential. Properly exhausted. And it would love to be able to put its feet up and protect you in all sorts of new ways, letting more abundance and joy into your life. And so I am so, so excited to hopefully continue journeying with you on these 21 days. And if you're on my mailing list, I will continue to put out things that you might find useful. I hope you continue to use these recordings for the rest of your life. And I hope you find great value in the Free Mind app, where you will find a treasure trove of goodies that will help you change how you feel, change how you think, change what you believe, and change how you behave. And this work is not about becoming someone new. This work is about realigning with who we always would have been, had we always been given the love, support, and inspiration that we deserved. It's returning to that pure state that exists inside us. It's untarnished, it's It's untrammeled, it is unaffected, and it is ready and waiting. And it comes in the form of an inner child, waiting for you to bring it home and remind it of its glorious beauty, its greatest capacity, and the fact that it's deserving of the most beautiful love, not because of what it can do or what it's going to achieve, but beyond all forms of external validation, but because you are a child of this universe, and we are all equal and equally deserving of love. So thank you just so much for your attention tonight and for the shared momentum that we created here. And I look forward to journeying with you further in any way. If anything that's been discussed here has touched you and you want to reach out privately, you want support on a one-on-one basis, that is also possible. Working with me or working with any number of the incredible free mind therapists that I've trained over the last few years, who I'm proud to have in the community to offer support to people in all sorts of places across the UK and the world now. So sending you all, just so much love and thank you. And I will hopefully see you all very, very soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Bye.
Thanks so much. God bless.
Bless you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks, Tom. Love you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you,
It's
Tom.
been lovely.
Love you.
Lovely to see you
You're a
again.
beautiful soul.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your comment on Facebook. And I don't know why my boss from 10 years ago actually was reading this thing and said that she's something really nice about me, that I didn't realise how special I am. And it's so weird because everything you've been talking about relates to that in a sense. And you've got more hair than me. The proper unique inner child baby, because I've gone back to my bald head.
Nice. Perfect. Beautiful.
No, thanks. It's fantastic. I can't wait to get stuck into this.
Awesome. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
You. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. I'm now going to close it. Have a good evening.